There, we're recording. Okay, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much for joining us on this first day of the International Double Read Society first virtual symposium. It is Monday, July 27th, 2020, and we're about to participate together in a question and answer session about Rufus Olivier Jr.'s short talk and two works that he recorded, also featuring composer Peter Josheff to discuss his work, Do We Not, Do We Got? So Rufus Olivier Jr. is the principal bassoonist of the San Francisco Opera and the San Francisco Ballet. And Rufus and Peter are lifelong friends of over 3 decades, Peter being a composer and a clarinetist in the Bay Area, in new music groups, including Earplay and others. My name is Billy Short. I'm the bassoon at-large member of the IDRS Executive Committee, and I will be moderating this event. As some people have already picked up on, you can submit questions using that Q&A button down at the bottom of the screen in Zoom, and I will read them out to Rufus and Peter and keep our discussion going. And with that, I'd like to pass things along to our fantastic panelists. And Rufus, maybe you can start us off just by telling us a little about how these videos came to be, what the original purpose behind them was, how you and Peter worked together on this piece, Do We Not, Do We Got? Take it away, Rufus.
Sure. Well, thanks for everybody. I see some friends, John Steinmetz. I'm looking, oh my good, Tim Stevens. Oh my gosh, a student. Wonderful. Hi guys. Anyway, I've been sitting in this room since March 7th because we left the hall on March 6th, you know. And so we were getting assignments from the ballet, make videos, do this. So I just started making videos. There's one where I matched up with my daughter-in-law. I played some Mildy etude, and she danced to it. So they put that together, and the video, the Weber, was again an accident. I was supposed to play the Weber with an orchestra in April. Actually, I was supposed to premiere a new piece with an orchestra in April, but the composer had not written one note. And it was January, and I was waiting for music, and it never came. And so finally, the conductor just called me and said, "Do the Weber." So there you go. So I said, well, and then of course that concert got canceled, and I was supposed to play a festival, Music in May, and they wanted me to do a virtual little concert or something. So I says, well, I have a piece called Weber. So again, an accident. And that's how I ended up doing the Weber. And as far as Peter's piece, we're talking June here. That's the ink is still wet on this stuff, you know. I just wrote him a note. I hadn't seen him in a year maybe on the street. I think the last time I saw him was on the street walking around the Opera House, and we chatted, and he went on his way. And then we're locked down. I just started thinking, wow, I wonder what Peter's doing. So I just sent him a note. Hey, Peter, what's happening? How you doing, man? Blah, blah, blah. And he wrote back, oh, I'm fine. And then he wrote back again. He said, want me to write you a piece? And I said, sure. I said, sure. And I reminded him, I reminded him that Hindemith wrote his bassoon sonata when he was locked up. He wrote all the woodwind sonatas except the bassoon. And he got snowed in somewhere. He kept procrastinating, but then he got snowed in on a little vacation in a cabin, couldn't get out of that cabin. So he thought, well, I have nothing else to do. I'll write the bassoon sonata. So Peter is my Hindemith. You know, he's sitting in a room writing a bassoon piece for me. And again, I wasn't expecting anyone to hear it this soon. You know, it was, I think, June, I think I got it or something like that. So this was an accident.
Fantastic. So Peter, if you'd like to unmute yourself and you know, I know we would love to hear more about the genesis of the piece. It should be in the lower left corner of your screen. There you go.
Yeah, well, everything Rufus said is just the way I remember it. And I was just thinking, you know, as the quarantine went on, that really solo pieces are the way to go here, you know, and so when Rufus got in touch, it was just like, bingo. And then since writing the bassoon piece, I wrote a cello piece in the last couple of weeks for Talia Moore, who's the associate principal cellist in the opera orchestra, and I'm writing one now, a marimba piece for a percussionist. And it just, you know, because you're going to get someone, it's not going to be a virtual bunch of people online trying to put their parts together. It's going to be a real person, you know, working on it. It's so I just love these fortuitous little accidents. It's really great. You know, Rufus and I have been, well, I've been a fan of his for a long time, maybe 34 years. My group Earplay hired him, I think it was 1986, to play a solo piece that I'd written. And then I was just hooked after that. And I kept wanting to write a piece for him, and things didn't work out until that moment when you got in touch. And then it was like, okay, now we can do it.
And were there, you know, particular qualities in Rufus's playing that you tried to gear the piece toward?
I'm not sure. He just helps me understand what the bassoon is. When I look, if you watch the San Francisco Opera, there's Rufus down right in the middle. It's like the fulcrum of the orchestra. And it sort of helped me understand that the bassoon is like fulcrum or the spine of the orchestra, and all the other instruments kind of flesh out the identity of the bassoon. And it's like a very central role in the orchestra. And he's just down there holding it down. It's so amazing. So I understand the bassoon through watching him play.
That's fantastic. And Peter, Susan Bawden asks, how did you arrive at the title for Do We Got, Do We Not?
Oh, that's a question I've been thinking about. So usually when I finish a piece, the title just kind of emerges, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So now I'm experimenting with putting lyrics to like a important motive in the piece. So it's that do we not, do we got, and then so if I were to write lyrics, you know, I kind of thought, well, does it mean anything? And I sort of see it in this current situation with everything that's going on. It's almost like a to be or not to be kind of question. Do we got, do we not? You know, it's like, do we got, do we not? So I don't know, I don't think the piece reflects that, but I think you can think about that and see if there's anything like that, because it's written during this whole time of all this world turmoil. So that's how the title came about anyways.
Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. And Rufus, I'm curious, are there other ways in which this current situation, this turmoil that Peter alluded to, has sort of spurred your creativity, other projects or other ways of engaging with the bassoon or music that have come out over the last third of a year?
Oh yeah, you know, I'm almost ashamed to say I'm having a good time, because I've been playing for people for a long time, 45 years, you know. So to be in my little bassoon cave, and you know, oh, my wife, you know, all of that. But to be here, see my family every day and all that, 1 year out of 45, 50 years of playing in front of people is it's a blink of an eye. So I'm taking it in a positive way, and I've been able to. If you can see, all you bassoon players can look over my shoulder. Just look at all those reed blanks. Once we come out of this COVID thing, you'll never see that many reeds on my table, ever. And so I've been doing that, working on the house, but in here in this laboratory, I call this my little laboratory. I've been working on a lot of issues that I perceive that I have. You know, they may be secret, but I have issues. Students, they never go away. But I've been working out some real issues, and when you're by yourself, those issues show up. So I've been using it to actually, I think I might actually go to back to work a little better, to be honest. You know.
That's fantastic. We have a couple of comments that have come in. An anonymous attendee says, "Look at the number of vocals you've got back there."
Oh,
Um,
that's
uh,
just the ones on the wall.
yeah.
I don't even use those.
Juan de Gomar sends huge love to Rufus. I think that this actually segues very nicely from what you just said, Rufus, about sort of using this as an opportunity to, continue improving. Arthur Unger asks, how do you maintain your playing, and do you find a change as you age?
Yeah, well, what happens is you always think, you're always trying to get to a certain point. And what happens, maybe it's unfortunate, maybe it is fortunate, but you're always chasing what's in your brain. Now, once you get to what you want, you're a little more mature. So now your art is ahead of you again. And so now you're chasing that. You're trying, you have a vision of your art, but it changes as you mature. And so you're on the hunt. I'm constantly on the hunt, trying to catch up to what I really want to do musically. So, and you would think, wow, you've been doing this so long. People ask me, you still have to practice? And I just laugh, haha, practicing is cheating. That's what I tell everybody. But it's a lie. But it's a nonstop thing. I'm sitting here. If you were my student, I would say Mildy is the Bible. That's what I would say. It keeps you sharp, keeps everything moving, rolling. And then you can experiment. I have time to experiment. If I had my choice, I would just play ballads the rest of my life. I would be the Frank Sinatra of the bassoon. But the real world isn't like that, The real world, you have to work, you have to use your fingers. So I like to stay on top of it with, long tones, exercises, lots of exercises and things like that. And with finishing off with music. That's always the last thing on my agenda.
Fantastic. And Peter, as both a composer and clarinetist, I know that you have sort of the same kind of relationship with music, of this sort of never-ending hunt for that ideal. I'm curious, what are the similarities between this journey between clarinet and composition, and where maybe do they sort of take different forms, if that question makes sense?
It does, and it's a very interesting question. This just occurs to me because I haven't been playing very much. I've been doing these other projects, and I really am a fan of taking time off, because when I come back, my ideas have kind of cleaned out, and everything's a little leaner, and I'm thinking more clearly, so I can make progress with a kind of a fresh blank slate. So I recommend it, even though you have to kind of work hard to get back in shape. But it's a much more efficient process each time. So I'll perform a bunch, and then I'll have a couple of weeks or a month or 2 months or whatever, and then I'll just compose intensively and then go back and forth. And it's kind of getting to the point now where I can do them both simultaneously, maybe during the same day. But I definitely like doing things intensively, one or the other.
Fantastic. And if I could just follow up on that before we go to some of the questions that people have been submitting, and thank you to everyone who has submitted, and please keep them coming. Peter, something that's always struck me about writing, whether it's words or music or what have you, is that there's a certain permanence to it that you don't get with playing. unless you're recording yourself, with which Rufus and I were just talking about what a miserable experience that can be. Is that something that is a source of satisfaction to you as you continue to refine and improve your compositional chops? Is it a source of frustration because you can sort of always be revising and never get to quite where you want to be? I'm just curious to hear your perspective on that.
It's maybe more permanent than playing, but it still feels like I'm trying to get something, and then you finish something and you think I've accomplished something. This is really great, and the feeling of yes, and then that ebbs, it goes away, and then you realize it wasn't quite. It's like you were saying, Rufus. It wasn't quite where I thought it was when I was in the world that I was in while I was composing. So it's almost like a sandcastle thing. They start to crumble right away. But there's the hope that there'll be these little nuggets of permanence along the way, hopefully.
Fantastic. Rufus, a couple of sort of rapid fire questions for you from Manuel Hernandez. What series is the bassoon that you play on?
13,000, early.
The 13.
Early 1320, I think, very early.
Okay. And I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I'll tell you this. If you love your instrument, then you're not working hard enough. Okay, that's all.
I like that. And Manuel also asks, do you use double tonguing in the third movement of Weber or single tonguing?
Oh God, I wish I could double tongue. I've been working on that for a while, but it's single tongue. But that's only because I'm scared. So don't worry about it.
Hey, I wish I could single tongue like you in that case.
No, trust me, it gets harder as the grade comes. It gets harder, and so I've been working on. I do double tonguing when everybody else is playing, because I don't want anybody to hear what it really sounds like. But I can tongue faster when I'm in a concert. Yeah.
John Steinmetz says, Rufus, your playing sounds so flexible and you make it seem so easy. Can you remember any particular discovery that helped you do that?
A discovery. Well, yeah, I remember looking at a video of the great saxophone player, Charlie Parker. And he was just wailing away on that horn, And I thought, look at that. I can barely see his fingers moving. So when I was a kid, I started practicing in the mirror to not move my fingers far away from the keys. And which made me feel like I'm faster. I can get around much faster. And you sort of have to connect the dot to practicing a lot. That helps a lot. But also, I don't know. It's a mental thing. I'll tell you guys a secret. I never really liked the way the bassoon sounds. That's not why I became bassoon. I became bassoon player because they ran out of oboes. That's all they had left. So I always thought of the bassoon not as the bassoon. I thought of it as a flute or a violin or a viola or a cello. And so that's what I'm trying to play it. And being in the opera, I just want to be like, Pavarotti when I'm playing or some singer. So I think of it not so much as a bassoon, it's just a vehicle to express myself. I don't think of it as a bassoon. I don't know why. I'm a trader.
That's fantastic. And Charles Meek asks, might you recount the story behind your solo in Never Cry Wolf?
That's amazing. That was a long time ago. I have a 35-year-old son, and he wasn't born when I did that. And
Maybe give everyone some context if they're not familiar with this particular
Never
film.
Cry Wolf is a movie Disney made, and it's become an anthem for environmentalists. And it's basically a movie about in I guess it's Alaska or somewhere very cold. And the character is going up there because he's trying to prove that the wolves aren't killing the cattle. And and he proves that. He shows that the wolves can actually eat field mice. In other words, they're not killing cattle. So the farmers are killing wolves. So he's trying to save wolves. Well, the character himself, he takes a bassoon with him. He's a bassoon player. And he uses his bassoon basically to talk to the wolves, correspond with the wolves. Well, there's two scores to Never Cry Wolf. There's a score with a big, huge orchestra. And we recorded it at Skywalker Ranch, big, huge orchestra. And they never used it. So I got a call from the writer, the writer. He said, "We want you to come down here." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, the director saw you walking by the booth and says, 'I want that guy. Bring me that guy.'" So they called me into a booth and they says, "Look, we're going to show you wolves. We're going to show scenes. And we just want you to play. Just play whatever you want to play, as long as it's in D minor." And and they basically just put me in a room with the screen and just let me go. And for days and days, they didn't use as much as what I did hours and hours of playing to this wolf. And it was all, I mean, there's no tunes here. We're talking about sounds and bending notes and flexing notes. And the composer says, "Well, I want you to sound," I remember the director of the movie, Carol Ballard, he says, "I want you to sound like a wolf going like this over the top." And then somebody in the booth said, "And do it in D minor," you know? And so I made these sounds, and I don't know what that is. Oh, well. I did these sounds, and they just recorded and put it to the movie. So again, accidental, freak, that's my whole career. It's just an accident. But that strange little movie, people keep bringing up, and it's been around forever. And now it's an environmentalist anthem in a way. So you never know, you never know. I'll tell young people, need students, just play like you're gonna die tomorrow, every day, every time you play, because you don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know where it's going. Just play like it's your last day on earth.
Well, so it's a particularly affecting philosophy given the current circumstances. And Rufus, there was something in the quote by Weber that you read before your beautiful performance of the second and third movements of the concerto that really stuck out to me. One sentence of which was, I believe, "Music is love itself," and what that sort of prompted for me was that is potentially a rather elegant answer to what role music plays in our current situation as a society, worldwide, when there's so much pain, there's so much fear, there's so much injustice. What role does music play? I wonder, Peter, to bring things back to you, whether you have thoughts on this subject.
Yeah, and I don't know how to answer them. I mean, for me, music is a form of thought, and composing especially, you're actually kind of thinking out loud in a symbolic language. And so you don't have to talk about anything specific, and yet it is somehow emotionally specific or intellectually specific or dealing with form or shape in a specific way. And so it's kind of nice that it can be both symbolic and real at the same time. I wanted to go back to something Rufus said earlier about not thinking of the bassoon as a bassoon, because another way that we're like linked in our souls is that's exactly the way I feel about the clarinet. I feel like we don't want to talk about single reeds at a double reed conference, but I always think of the clarinet more as a chameleon, that my role is to blend other sounds, which I think is something the clarinet does really well, rather than as a kind of a solo in your face kind of instrument. I love the sort of viola quality of it, where you can get underneath inside the texture and change depending on the, you know, the environment you're in. So I'm with you, Rufus, on that.
Yeah.
I,
Well,
I,
you know, I've said before, I don't know, but I've always, you know, we're always talking about first responders, which are great. And that's what we are. We are first responders of the soul. That's what we do. Pretty much wraps it up. This is all really that's going to last is the art. You know, art always lasts more than everything. We are the responders of the soul, first responders of the soul. So that's what we do.
That's beautiful.
that is beautiful. And Peter, I love this structure of the orchestra that's emerging from this conversation, where Rufus, you know, as the bassoonist is the backbone of the orchestra, and the clarinet is but a chameleon. This is fantastic. I'm gonna use that with my colleagues.
Yeah, tell that to the clarinet player.
I've thought about this stuff a lot.
So Rufus, you're an opera bassoonist. I'm an opera bassoonist. We have to talk about opera a little bit. Tell me how playing opera has influenced your playing.
Oh, it's the opera. You know, once you start playing with incredible, I'm not gonna say world class anymore because it was overused, like genius. You know, once you start playing with unbelievable singers, then you realize, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing with my instrument. And it's just a lesson, one lesson day after day. My opening night at San Francisco Opera, opening night was Samson Delilah with Shirley Verrett and Domingo. That's the first thing I did. Starts with the bassoon, by the way. You know that. And you realize, okay, game on. You know, once they open their mouths, it's like, what have I gotten myself into? This is real. So also, I always get the question, you know, I was in San Francisco Symphony before I was in the opera, and people and the ballet. So people always ask me. So I've done the symphony, the opera, and the ballet in San Francisco, and I have a quintet I've been in for 35 years. And they always ask me, you know, what do you do different? What are you doing different? And I was listening to the radio one day, and I was listening to a goal kicker, football. And they asked him this question: when you're 10 yards away from the goal or 40 yards away, how do you change your kick? And he said, I kick the ball the same way every time, no matter how close or how far. And quite frankly, I play exactly the same way as if I'm in a symphony orchestra, if I'm with my quintet, or if I'm in the opera. You know, it's the same. It's sort of I have a chamber music brain to a 3,500 seat hall, but I'm still thinking chamber music up here, you know. And my role, I know my role in the orchestra. I feel like my role is in the woodwind section is the mortar in between all the bricks around me, you know. I love helping my colleagues sound good. I love it. I love being that support to that flute player, that clarinet player, that oboe player, or just doing that. You know, nobody knows that you're in charge, but you're in charge. You know, you're ruling from behind, but nobody knows, you know, except us. Same in the quintet. We control everything, but we have to let the flute, the high winds think they're in charge. But
Absolutely. Peter, we have another question that came in for you from an anonymous attendee. Peter, how did you come to compose? Which came first, playing or composing, or did both happen together? And do you think that more performers should compose? If so, what advice would you have for performers who are interested in composing also?
Oh, that's a question. Everyone should compose. Everyone, whether you're improvising on your instrument or just anybody should compose. I started playing clarinet, in 7th grade, along with all the other little band students. And I started, in high school, I played guitar and wrote little songs and stuff. And so I definitely didn't really start composing until college. So clarinet predates composing. As far as advice for composers, geez, I have no idea. I'm not in a position to give advice, but everyone should compose. I mean, it's just a natural thing. It's a kind of musical metabolism. This, I'll tell you, the specialization now just drives me nuts. That there's a this and a that, and then the composer is like the content provider. It's so it's limiting and doesn't reflect nature to me. And
do you feel like
we should all be metabolizing all of the music all the time, including all forms of music and genres, and you get our ideas and influences everywhere.
Do you feel like composing has enriched your clarinet playing?
Yes. Yeah, and I think the chameleon aspect that I mentioned, I mean, I'm always thinking and I'm living inside the harmony as a clarinetist and trying to hear everything. And so in some ways, someone once said I approach things by ear. So I think, yes, for a composer, being a performer is crucial. And I think as a clarinetist, being inside, or like as a violist too, you're inside, you're supporting other people, and you're just trying to understand what's going on, but on a sort of oral level.
Fantastic. So we're now, a couple minutes over our scheduled end time. So I'm just going to wrap things up with a question back to you, Rufus. The question that has to come up in every Q&A with an opera bassoonist: what's your favorite opera to play, and what's your favorite ballet to play, for that matter?
oh Lord, that's so hard. That is so hard. I don't. I mean, if anyone has played like a whole Marriage of Figaro, for instance, I remember playing Figaro. You play that overture, then the next piece, and I would turn to my second bassoon player, isn't this great? And we play the third piece, and I turn, oh my God, isn't this great? Third, first, and then he just turns and says, it's all great. Shut up, will you? It's all great. And then you're playing Rake's Progress, and then I don't know, then you're doing a Parsifal or something like that. So I just don't have a favorite. I don't have a favorite, because when you're in the moment, that's your favorite. As far as the ballet is so misunderstood musically, because at least in San Francisco, we do the war horses. We do all of the minkus and all that sort of thing. But last year, for instance, we played for 14 days back to back. They danced to Rite of Spring and Shostakovich 9, back to back, 14 days. Yeah, anyway, so you don't know what you're going to play. They dance to everything and all sorts of music. We have a composer here, Shinji, our bass player, wrote a beautiful piece, Raku, and because we're friends and I beat him at poker, he put in this killer bassoon part that goes about 2 pages. He wants to kill me. And you have another composer, bassoon player, John Steinmetz. He's a fabulous composer, good fella. But so whatever is in front of me as a professional musician, I'm going to tell everybody here, I don't like the Weber, okay? But whatever's in front of me is my favorite piece. I played the Weber because they asked me to do it. But whatever's in front of me, I like your piece, Peter, not your piece. But whatever's in front of me, I am going to play it like it's my own child. I guarantee that.
I love that.
That's called
Fantastic.
professionalism.
We're crazy, man.
This is the Peter, Rufus. This has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, for your insights, for your inspiration, for your artistry. We really cannot thank you enough. And to everyone who is here as an attendee, thank you so much for being here, and we'll look forward to seeing you throughout events for the rest of the week.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for being so gracious and, you know, whatever. I hope it was okay because I didn't look at it.
We're getting many thank yous. Josh, I think we can stop recording now, and